For 2.5 years, British ships have made the most perilous and heroic voyages in the story of the sea, bound for Malta. For 2.5 years, Malta has stood alone. 1,000 miles east from Gibraltar, 1,000 miles west from Alexandria, but only 20 minutes flying time from Axis aerodromes in Sicily. In this central position, she dominates the crossroads of the Mediterranean and is inevitably a key piece in the strategy of the World War. No one can claim mastery of the Mediterranean without first gaining control of Malta. In his efforts to seize this control, Hitler has surrounded her with a ring of bonds, attempting to cut her off from her supplies and to starve her into submission. Malta is a little island of rock and sun-baked dust. She is poor, she is isolated, she has always looked to the outside world for most of her necessities. Malta's achievement is a tribute to these gallant ships who battered their way through walls of fire and explosive, overcoming every hazard to reach her shores. Valletta Harbour is Britain's haven in the central Mediterranean. Every shell, every bullet, every piece of armour or item of equipment necessary for her wartime life is convoyed here by the British Navy. All this has made possible her triumphant survival and will enable her now to play her part in exacting retribution for the cruel devastation wrought upon her. Malta was a beautiful island. She has seen the history of the ancient world, the birth of civilizations, the rise and fall of empires. Here came Carthaginians, Romans, Greeks, and Vandals. They all left their marks upon her and departed. Here came St. Paul to spread the early gospel. Here came the Christian fugitives from Rome. And here, in the citadel of San Angelo, the Maltese knights for centuries stood guard for Christendom against the infidel. The Maltese were a people of old traditions and simple manners of life. But Hitler turned their island into a target of perpetual... This is just another raid. No less terrible and no more terrible than over 1,000 others like it. For 2 years, the Axis powers have hurled themselves thus upon Malta. They have sent over an endless procession of planes to drop thousands of tons of bombs upon a handful of towns and villages. All this has cost them dear. They have lost hundreds of valuable aircraft and hundreds of their most experienced pilots. This is the price they have paid for the ravage of Malta. Great clouds hang over the battered island, and Malta's 1774th raid is chalked up. Once more the people come out of their caves and shelters. Once more they come out into the littered streets and view with accustomed eyes new damage and new personal loss. This has been their daily life. These broken stones are their homes, their churches, their once familiar city. The ordeal of the people has been prolonged and ceaseless. Yet there has been no slackening of effort. Theirs has been the problem of survival. They adapted their old ways of life to the new conditions. And among the strange familiarity of all the devastation, they have found a new unity. That underground granary has been in existence for centuries. Today it again plays its part in storing food for the people of the island. People had work to do. Not only the age-long task of winning a living from the island, but also the great labor of defense. These are the children of Malta. They have endured all that this film records, and they go to school as usual. Malta was battered, but never to her knees. Between raids, torpedo-carrying aircraft of the Fleet Air Arm went out to strike at Rommel's shipping en route for Libya. And Rommel paid the price. He was never fully reinforced. Malta today can claim her full share in the victory of the British 8th Army in Egypt. To cover the island, Spitfires and Hurricanes have maintained a ceaseless patrol. The newspaper of the island is the Times of Malta. Not once during the most devastating period of aerial assault has it missed a single issue. Every day its columns have been full of the fierce battles waged in these immediate skies, in which over 1,000 enemy aircraft have fallen to the defenders. This was the issue that carried the news of the award of the George Cross by His Majesty the King, a tribute from the people of Britain to the people of Malta. Frontline news brought to a frontline people. Malta's strategic position has been the cause of much of her suffering in the past, and it has been the cause of much of her glory. Today she has paid for it anew in blood and ruins. Yet from this very devastation she reaps new glory. This piled rubble bears the symbol of her stubborn courage. These broken pillars are monuments to her present endurance. Incessantly the raids mount up. 1,775, 2,000, 2,050, 2,787. Close on 3,000 raids have been directed against the island. The Germans had hoped with their terrible bombing to batter the people of Malta into submission. But the Maltese are an old and proud people. And now their sufferings call for adjustment. This will be done. These scenes of Wellington bombers going out by night to smash the Axis aerodromes in Sicily were taken when the storm was at its height. If such blows were possible in the face of such overwhelming assault, what may not be done in the future? It was this hope of the offensive to come that sustained the people as nights of horror followed the days of anguish. This is Malta. This has been her life. This has been her history. This is her glory. Like Britain, she stood that freedom might survive. The same enemy sought to destroy her. The same bombs fell, the same fountains of blood and stone leaped up. But by her stand, out of the smoke and dust, shone forth the overwhelming victory of Egypt and the occupation of the French North African coast. And on this foundation, on the ruins of Malta, may be erected the structure of Nazi defeat. Such is the will to freedom, the will to victory.